The airfield was a study in hasty wartime glamour. A grand, yet clearly temporary judging stand had been erected, just meters from the main runway. An unwise proximity, perhaps, given the contestants' banners proclaiming words, "Technological supremacy through complex redundancy," fluttered precariously above a podium laden with microphones. And overly large, entirely arbitrary scorecards. Klaus the announcer, a man whose voice possessed the booming quality, slightly manic quality of high-ranking propaganda, stepped forward, adjusting his headset. Guten Abend, meine Damen und Herren. Welcome. Welcome to the inaugural Luftwaffe talent show, Klaus roared, his voice echoing off the walls, the newly patched hangar walls. In these trying times, what better way to boost national morale than by forcing our technically magnificent, chronically over-engineered aircraft to perform terrifyingly unnecessary acrobatics. We seek the Reich's most spectacular and potentially most volatile flying machine. He gestured dramatically toward the judges' panel to assess performance maintenance complexity and the all-important structural integrity. We have two legendary figures. On the left sat Professor Willy Messerschmitt, a man perpetually radiating the aura of someone who has just found a minor calculation error that invalidates the entire universe. He wore a crisp, dark suit, his face a landscape of tight disapproval, occasionally wiping an invisible smudge from the fuselage-shaped trophy into judge. Style flair and the all-important element of schwarm spirit. Klaus continued, turning to the right. Please welcome the spectral embodiment of World War I aerial chivalry, Manfred von Richthofen, the Red Baron. The Baron, a faintly shimmering figure in his signature blood-scarlet uniform, stood up and delivered a crisp, anachronistic bow. Ah, wunderbar. I anticipate much courteous dogfighting, and perhaps some polite salutations via synchronized machine gun. Fire! The Baron declared, his voice a buoyant echo of optimism entirely unsuited to the current era of stressed metal. And high explosives, Willy Messerschmitt pinched the bridge of his nose. We are judging engineering efficacy, Manfred, not the size of the silk scarf. If an aircraft requires a pilot to wear tinted goggles and a helmet made of wicker, it loses points for suboptimal weight distribution. Nonsense Willy style is everything. If I cannot tell the pilot's lineage by the color of his rigging wires, how am I to know if he is worth a dignified death? The Baron countered. Cheerfully settling back into his ethereal chair, Klaus clapped his hands. Excellent. Let the competition begin. Our first contestant is the true workhorse of the Jagdwaffe, a design that terrorized the skies from the Spanish Civil War onwards, the epitome of the stressed skin monocoque fighter. Please welcome the Messerschmitt Bf-109. Contestant, the Bf-109, the high-altitude snob. A sleek, angular Bf-109 G14, pristine, save for the excessive amount of panel lines. That suggested every single part was removable. For routine, agonizing maintenance, taxied onto the runway. The pilot, Hauptmann Gunther, a man who believed any fight below 20,000 feet was morally dubious, adjusted his oxygen mask. Klaus leaned into the mic. The 109, specifically the ubiquitous Gustav variant, achieved legendary status thanks to its powerful engine cannon armament and ability to handle the thin air where Allied bombers prefer to operate. Hauptmann Gunther will now demonstrate the 109's unparalleled climb rate and high-altitude supremacy. The Bf-109 roared down the runway, its powerful Daimler-Benz engine, the very engine Kurt Tank deliberately avoided using, the FW-190 providing a dizzying surge of power. The fighter pulled up, climbing at an angle that looked physically impossible. Willy watched a rare hint of pride softening his rigid features. Notice the streamlined fuselage, the enclosed cockpit, the sheer efficiency of the layout. The K-series engines, when properly cooled, could deliver nearly 2,000 horsepower to that delicate chassis.
into a delicate
A masterpiece of pushing
Such
limits.
brittle complexity is merely
It's a bit
functional,
functional,
not
the
elegant
Baron
or reliable.
commented, peering skyward. Where is the color? Where is the tri-wing swagger? And why is he already so high? Barely make out the pilot's mustache. Willy sighed. That is the point, Manfred. Altitude is life. Now watch as Gunther demonstrates a perfect high-speed intercept simulation. The 109, now a mere speck, executed a rapid roll and dive. But something went wrong. Hauptmann Gunther had clearly taken the high-altitude supremacy instructions too literally. The plane had soared past its optimal combat height and was now pushing its service ceiling. Wait, Willy muttered. Leaning closer, squinting. The oil pressure indicator looks unstable. Is that localized icing on the canopy? Up in the stratosphere. Gunther was experiencing the classic late war 109 issue. The limits of the piston engine in near vacuum conditions. The massive engine, while glorious, was a temperamental beast. On the ground, the glorious dive morphed into a highly concerning silent plunge.
Absolutely splendid.
Ah, a stealth maneuver, the Baron announced brightly. The element of surprise. He is approaching the enemy from the sun, I assume. No, Manfred, Willy said through gritted teeth. He appears to be falling. He has stalled the engine due to an improperly managed manifold pressure oxygen mixture differential at sub-zero temperatures. It's a common, infuriating flaw when pilots prioritize vanity over physics. The 109 plummeted, silent as a stone, until Gunther managed a terrifying emergency restart at dangerously low altitude. The engine caught with a cough and a shudder, and the pilot managed to pull up just before impacting the judge's stand. The G forces caused a wing-mounted 20mm cannon to eject its entire ammo drum, which clattered harmlessly onto the tarmac. The 109 landed messily, skidding the last 50 meters. Gunther hopped out, furious. Judge Messerschmitt, I demand a rescore. You cannot appreciate the true power of the Gustav unless you are above 10,000 meters. The lower atmosphere is filled with inferior pilots, and frankly, dust. I was demonstrating operational altitude superiority. Willy grabbed a microphone. Operational altitude superiority means nothing if the resulting descent requires me to replace my expensive observation deck. You achieved a magnificent climb, followed by an unscheduled silent and potentially catastrophic glide. Score 410 for engineering integrity. 3 points for excessive aerial snobbery. Total 1. The Baron awarded a more generous score. 5. 10 points deducted for failing to wave to the crowd on the way down. But points added for the sheer thrill of nearly being struck by a collapsing monoplane. A truly visceral experience, contestant. The FW190, the thirsty brute. Klaus quickly ushered the furious Gunther away. A spirited performance highlighting the dangers of oxygen deprivation. Next up, we have the true muscular brawler, the antithesis of the BF-109's delicate complexity. Designed by the visionary Kurt Tank, known for its rugged durability, devastating firepower, and powerful radial engine. Behold the Focke-Wulf FW190. A magnificent FW190A4, the famed Butcher Bird, roared onto the runway. It looked like a cannon platform wrapped around an engine, solid, squat, and dangerous. The wings were visibly heavy. With armament, 2 20mm cannons mounted near the root and 2 more closer to the tips, backed up by 4 792mm machine guns. Willy scowled. Tank's design uses a radial engine, far too easy to manufacture. Where is the technical artistry? Any peasant can maintain a radial engine. It's uncivilized. But look at the strength, the Baron exclaimed, delighted. He looks like a gladiator. Notice the size of the propeller spinner. And look at those cannons. A total of 4. That is enough firepower to politely request that the opponent disintegrate. The pilot of the 190 Oberleutnant, Erich, executed a breathtakingly rapid takeoff and immediately began the Focke-Wulf's signature maneuver, the blistering. High-speed roll. The speed was immense, the agility surprising for such a powerful machine. The roll rate is unparalleled. Willy conceded grudgingly. Tank engineered the thick wings beautifully for rapid lateral movement. This is what we call brute force precision. Erich then entered a steep, terrifying dive, pulling out at the last moment and banking. He flew directly over the judges' stand, unleashing a brief, spectacular burst from all 4 cannons into a target. Dummy far down the field. The dummy vanished in a cloud of splinters and high-explosive shrapnel. Herrlich, what? Glorious noise, the Baron cheered, dusting imaginary cordite from his uniform. Erich prepared for his final flourish. A high G turn followed by a vertical climb. He pushed the throttle to the firewall, demanding the maximum performance. From the BMW 801 radial engine. Suddenly, the smooth, powerful roar turned into a rattling, sputtering cough. Black smoke. Thick and oily began to stream from the engine cowling, not in a dignified plume, but in a series of violent, choking bursts.
Emergency!
The pilot immediately aborted the climb and wobbled back toward the runway. Klaus, scrambling, grabbed the mic. Technical difficulties, ladies and gentlemen. It appears the butcher bird is experiencing digestive issues. Willy leaned forward, his frustration palpable. The BMW 801 demands C3 grade fuel. It is a high-octane engine, robust, yes, but highly specific. This is not an engineering failure. This is a logistical failure. A panicked ground crewman, rushing past the judges, was intercepted by Willy. Tell me, what fuel did you use? The crewman stammered. Synthetic fuel, Professor Messerschmitt. The last shipment of C3 was requisitioned for the jet program. We used the standard B4. Issue stretched with a little ethanol additive. We thought the radial engine could handle it. Willy banged his fist. On the podium, handle it. This is like giving a fine thoroughbred industrial solvent. The performance rating drops by 40%. The cooling system is compromised, and the spark plugs are fouling. Tank's magnificent weapon is reduced to a lawnmower due to substandard petroleum refinement. The 190 touched down, vibrating violently. The black smoke had fully engulfed the judges' stand, leaving Willy sputtering and the Baron looking faintly delighted, as if he had just had a surprise smoke bath. Score, Willy decreed, waving away the smoke. 810 for the structural design, 0 for the feat. Catastrophic logistical vulnerability. The Focke-Wulf 190 has been defeated by a spreadsheet error and poor quality. Control total 4. The Baron, 710. That was a most invigorating smoke cloud. Excellent camouflage potential, though. Perhaps a little obvious. I deduct points for landing without dueling a foe while simultaneously lighting a cigarette. Contestant 3. The He 177. The flying cigarette lighter. Our next contestant requires no introduction, but certainly requires extensive documentation. Klaus announced, trying to clear the air. This aircraft represents the Reich's most ambitious foray into heavy strategic bombing. A 4-engined behemoth with revolutionary linked engine nacelles and a bomb capacity to rival the Flying Fortress itself. Give a hearty welcome to the Heinkel HE-177, the Greif. The He-177 taxied out. Even standing still, it looked complex. A massive, high-winged bomber with the signature twin. Propellers driven by 4 engines coupled into 2 nacelles. On paper, it was glorious. In reality, it was built like a volatile chemistry experiment. Willy stared at the bomber, his expression shifting from disgust to profound anxiety. Heinkel, they always try to do too much. 4 engines linked into 2 gearboxes. It's an engine maintenance technician's recurring nightmare. "Look at the size," the Baron exclaimed. "A true flying castle." It lacks the nimble grace of a scout, but I admire its grand scale. Perhaps it will carry enough wine and sausages for a proper picnic after the battle. Klaus explained the act. The He-177 will demonstrate its maximum power takeoff, showcasing its ability to lift nearly 16,000 pounds of ordnance for long-range missions. The plane reached the end of the runway. The pilot, Lieutenant Rudy, increased the throttle slowly. The two massive propeller arcs began to churn, driven by the four interconnected Daimler-Benz 605 engines nestled deep inside the nacelles. The noise was immense, rattling the teeth of everyone on the judging stand. The He-177 started its roll, building speed ponderously. And then it happened. Willy, whose eye for aerodynamic disaster was legendary, pointed a trembling finger at the inner right nacelle. "Smoke, that's not exhaust. That is oil vaporizing on an overheated manifold." The He-177 was still moving quickly, but it had not reached V1 takeoff speed. As Rudy increased power further, desperately trying to get airborne before the failure became terminal, a visible flicker of orange appeared near the wing root. "Oh, Herrgott! Willy!" shrieked, jumping up and overturning his technical manuals. The engine coupling has inevitably failed. The lubricating oil is pressurized, and it's hitting the red-hot supercharger. It's the infernal fire hazard all over again. The Heinkel He-177 had earned its terrible wartime nicknames: the Reichsfeuerzeug, Reichsleiter, and the Flammender Greif, Flaming Griffin. A flash of fire erupted from the right nacelle. The plane, still rolling violently, swerved as the pilot cut power to the burning engines. Black smoke poured out, laced with bright orange flames. This is marvelous pyrotechnics. The Baron roared, shielding his spectral eyes from the heat. Though highly unchivalrous to burn one's own aircraft, the bomber finally ground to a halt, 50 meters from the judging stand. 4 crewmen immediately bailed out, sprinting away. From the aircraft with commendable speed, one of the men was carrying a fire extinguisher, which he aimed uselessly at the massive plane before realizing the futility of the gesture and continuing his sprint. The intense heat from the burning nacelle caused the nearby hastily constructed competition display hangar to catch fire. Flames licked up the temporary corrugated iron siding. Klaus, forgetting the microphones were on, screamed, "Call the Feuerwehr!" "We have lost the prize hangar." Willy, now covered in soot and shaking, grabbed the scorecard. Disqualification, immediate. Permanent disqualification. This machine is a technical marvel that actively attempts to incinerate itself, and everything within a 500-meter radius. We demanded a demonstration of lift, not spontaneous combustion. Score: minus 100 points for being an existential threat to the talent show infrastructure. The unexpected winner, the Fi-156, Storch panic reigned. Ground crews wrestled with industrial hoses, while the hangar burned merrily in the background. The judges were coughing on the combined exhaust fumes of 3 magnificent failures. "We need a reset. A pallet." Cleanser Willy yelled over the sound of crackling fire. "Manfred, what did you even score the hay?" 177? Very generous. 3 out of 10, the Baron replied, fanning himself with his ethereal glove. For the dramatic use of smoke and the crew's Olympic-level sprinting ability. Klaus, trying to regain control, checked the clipboard. "Well, Professor, Messerschmitt Hauptmann Gunther only scored a 1, and Oberleutnant Erich only a 4, though he blamed the supply department. This leaves us without a winner for the heavy metal category. The entire competition was an embarrassing disaster. They needed an act that was simply competent." "Wait," Willy muttered, adjusting his scorched glasses. "I see one. Final machine. listed in the Utility Vehicle Reserve category. The aircraft used by the field commander for spotting, artillery, and transporting important, possibly deposed officials. It's slow. It's ugly. It has almost no armament. It is the Fiesler Fi-156 Storch, Storch, a small high-winged machine looking impossibly spindly next to the hulking, smoking. E-177 politely taxied toward the smoldering runway. It moved with the quiet dignity of a well-behaved. Insect Klaus defeated, announced. And now, our final demonstration. The Fiesler Fi-156 Storch, piloted by Lieutenant Franz. Lieutenant Franz will demonstrate a short field takeoff and landing. Willy watched, utterly devoid of hope, the Storch. It is technically sophisticated only in its landing gear geometry and leading-edge slots. It cannot fly fast, it cannot carry bombs, and it has the tactical presence of a garden shed. The Storch stopped its nose almost touching the grass at the edge of the tarmac. Franz revved the engine, let out the flaps, and released the brakes. The Storch seemed to leap into the air. It required less than 50 meters of runway, a distance approximately equal to the He-177's engine failure. Skid mark. It soared gently upward, almost silently, like a large, well-behaved bird. The Baron clapped his hands with genuine delight. Look at the visibility. Look at the control. He can fly so slowly. It's practically loitering. It's like a flying observation platform for gentlemanly reconnaissance. Franz flew a perfect, tiny circuit. He approached the smoking airfield, dropped the flaps, and deployed the huge dive brakes. The aircraft settled down vertically, landing gently right in front of the judges' table. It stopped completely in under 10 meters. Franz cut the engine, opened the door, and stepped out. He was carrying a small thermos flask. Professor Messerschmitt, Herr Baron Franz said politely. I apologize for the disruption. May I offer you both a hot coffee? The ascent was quite smooth. Willy stared at the aircraft, the only one all day that had started flown and landed without technical failure, fuel crisis, or self-immolation. It was simple, reliable, and entirely unexciting, but it worked. Manfred Willy sighed, running a hand over his tired face. This is an atrocity against the spirit of technical warfare. This machine is defined by its ability to land in a very small area. It has no Reich significance. Ah, but Willy the Baron countered, gently taking the spectral coffee cup Franz offered. It performed its task perfectly. It is the only aircraft today that completed its mission safely and demonstrated perfect control. Furthermore, it offered coffee. That, sir, is chivalry. Willy slammed the last scorecard down. The BF-109 was too arrogant and fell out of the sky. The FW-190 was defeated by low-grade fuel. And the HE-177 attempted to murder the audience via fire. The prize cannot go to magnificence that fails. It must go to boring, dependable utility. Klaus, stunned, announced the decision. The winner, episode 1 by default of not being on fire or crashing, is the Fiesler Fi-156 Storch. Lieutenant Franz accepted the small prize, the repurposed trophy from the smoking hangar, with a humble nod. Willy Messerschmitt looked at the tiny scout plane, the embodiment of everything he considered beneath true engineering, and felt a deep, existential dread. The best of German ingenuity had failed spectacularly. The most basic utility had won. Klaus stepped forward for the first finale, trying to inject enthusiasm back into the disaster. That concludes our first night of spectacular, unpredictable aerial performance. Next week, we move into the truly specialized one-trick wonders of the Luftwaffe. Klaus' voice brightened as he read the schedule. We will feature the fearsome dive bomber, refitted with anti-tank cannons, the Kanonenvogel, A machine so slow it may be possible to walk alongside it.
Quite thrilling.
We will also host a spectacular speedrun from the groundbreaking Me-262 jet fighter. Willy Messerschmitt shuddered. He knew the Me-262 was too fast. For its own good, and the memory of Gunther's earlier stall, made him instantly nervous about the Kanonenvogel's performance.